Imagine this, your electricity bill suddenly jumps by 267%. Not because you're using more power at home, but because a massive AI data center just moved into your neighborhood. Sounds unfair, right? But here's the surprising part. One of the world's biggest tech companies just announced they'll actually pay extra to make sure this doesn't happen to you. Today, we'll practice A2-B2 English listening while learning practical vocabulary about technology, money, and community life. We'll explore words like hike up, backlash, and phrases you can use when talking about costs and fairness. Here's what's happening. Microsoft is building huge AI data centers across America. These buildings use incredible amounts of electricity. And until now, local residents were worried they'd have to pay for it. But wait until you hear what Microsoft just promised to do. Welcome to Lady Show English. Let's discover how this affects you. Before we dive into the story, let me quickly show you the useful English you'll master today. First, we have hike up, which is a phrasal verb for talking about sudden price increases. This is perfect for discussing rent, food costs, or bills. Next, we'll learn backlash, which describes strong negative reactions from people. You can use this when discussing controversial decisions at work or in your community. We'll also cover pick up the tab, which is a super common idiom about paying for something, especially when it seems unfair. Plus, we'll explore hoover up, which means consuming things quickly in large amounts, and replenishment, which is all about refilling or restoring resources. Here's what makes this special. Every single word comes from a real news story that's affecting millions of people right now. So let's jump into the complete story and see how these words work in context. Microsoft, one of the world's biggest technology companies, is building massive data centers all over the United States. These aren't just regular buildings. They're enormous facilities that power artificial intelligence systems, the kind of AI that runs chatbots, creates images, and helps businesses analyze data. But here's the problem everyone's been worried about. These AI data centers hoover up electricity like giant vacuum cleaners. We're not talking about the power you use to charge your phone or run your air conditioner. These buildings use enough power to run entire neighborhoods or even small towns. And someone has to pay for all that energy. Who do you think was getting stuck with the bill? The surprising answer is regular people living nearby. In some areas close to these data centers, electricity costs jumped by as much as 267% compared to 5 years ago. Imagine your monthly bill going from $100 to $367. And guess what happened next? Local communities started protesting. They created what we call a backlash, which is a strong, angry reaction against something they felt was unfair. Many Americans argued, "We didn't ask for this AI build-out. Why should we pay for it?" They were especially worried because tech leaders have warned that AI might actually eliminate jobs in the future. Think about it for a moment. People were facing the possibility of losing their jobs to AI and paying higher electricity bills to power it. That doesn't seem right, does it? But here's where it gets interesting. On Tuesday, Microsoft President Brad Smith stood up and announced a completely new plan. He said Microsoft will not just pay for the electricity their data centers use. They'll also cover the costs of updating and adding necessary electricity to the grid. This means they'll pay for new power lines, transformers, and all the equipment needed so that local residents won't see their bills hike up. Smith explained it clearly. When a data center comes, its presence will not raise their electricity prices. And this surprised everyone because most big companies usually try to reduce their costs, not voluntarily pay extra. Wait for this part. Microsoft's plan goes even further than just electricity. They're also promising to invest in local water systems, libraries, and schools. They'll provide job training for construction workers who build the data centers and for long-term operators. Plus, they're partnering with local schools and libraries to offer AI skills training to community members. Here's the emotional part. In Arizona, Microsoft discovered that the local water pipes had leaks that were causing the community to lose fresh water. So the company worked with the city to find and fix these leaks, not because they had to, but because they wanted to be what Smith called a good neighbor. Smith said the company will pay for water replenishment when its data centers must draw on local water supplies. But the real reason this announcement is significant is the timing. Just one day before Microsoft's announcement, President Donald Trump posted on social media that his administration was working with big tech companies to make sure Americans don't pick up the tab for AI's massive power consumption. Trump promised that technology companies would commit to keeping regular people's utility bills from rising. The big tech industry is spending hundreds of billions of dollars building AI infrastructure. Leaders in Silicon Valley and government officials have described this build-out as essential for America's economy and national security. But here's what they're learning. If local communities feel harmed by this technology expansion, they'll fight against it. And that could slow down or even stop the AI revolution. Listen to this sentence carefully. Smith said, "We fundamentally believe that data centers can fuel economic prosperity, not for the few, but for everybody in a community." He's basically saying that technology shouldn't only benefit rich people or big companies. It should help entire communities prosper through better schools, hospitals, and public services. This part surprised me. Microsoft also promised they will not ask for property tax reductions in the areas where they build. Usually, big companies negotiate tax breaks with local governments, arguing they're creating jobs. But Microsoft is essentially saying, we'll pay our full share of local taxes to support community services. Here's what's really important for understanding modern business. This Microsoft announcement represents a shift in how tech companies think about their relationship with communities. For years, Silicon Valley operated with a move fast and break things mentality. Build first, deal with problems later. But now, here's what's changing. Companies are realizing they need what's called a social license to operate. That means getting permission and support from local communities, not just from government regulators. And one more thing to consider. Whether other tech companies follow this model remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the conversation about AI, infrastructure, and community impact is just beginning. Now that we've heard the complete story, let's break down those useful English expressions that appeared throughout. Remember, these aren't just for reading news. You can use them in your daily life, at work, and in conversations with friends. Let's start with our first expression, hike up. In our story, the title says, Microsoft has a plan to stop AI data centers from hiking up your electricity bill. Here's what it means in simple English. Hike up means to increase something suddenly or significantly, usually prices or costs. Think of hiking up a mountain, you're going upward quickly and steeply. When we say data centers could hike up your electricity bill, we mean they could cause your bill to jump suddenly and dramatically, not just increase by a few dollars, but potentially double or triple. Now let's make this practical for everyday life. You could say, the landlord wants to hike up the rent by 30% next month. I don't think I can afford it. Or, gas prices hiked up again this week. It's so expensive to drive now. You can use hike up when complaining about sudden price increases like rent, groceries, subscriptions, parking fees, or school tuition. Here's a small task for you, think about your own life. Has any price been hiked up recently that frustrated you? Maybe a coffee shop raised prices, or a streaming service became more expensive? Try creating your own sentence using hike up based on a real situation you've experienced. Ready for the next useful phrase? Our second expression is backlash. This word appeared when we discussed community reactions. The rising costs prompted backlash from local communities worried about the impact on their energy bills. Here's the explanation. Backlash is a strong negative reaction from many people against a decision, action, or change. Imagine a whip that snaps back quickly. That's the feeling. It's not just one person complaining, it's a wave of public anger or criticism. When local communities experienced backlash about data centers, it means many people became angry and started protesting, writing complaints, and demanding changes. The backlash was so strong that Microsoft had to respond with a new plan. You can use this in everyday situations like, the company's decision to cut employee benefits caused a huge backlash on social media. Or, there was immediate backlash when the restaurant announced they'd stop serving the most popular dish. You'll hear backlash in discussions about controversial business decisions, political statements, social media controversies, or any situation where many people react negatively to something. Can you think of a recent situation in your country or community where there was public backlash against something? This will help you remember the word in context. You'll like the next one even more. Now let's look at pick up the tab. President Trump used this expression. We will ensure that Americans don't pick up the tab for their power consumption. Here's the simple meaning. Pick up the tab is an informal idiom that means to pay the bill or cost for something, especially when it might not seem fair that you should have to pay. Originally, tab referred to a restaurant bill, but now we use it for any kind of payment. When Trump says Americans shouldn't pick up the tab for AI's power consumption, he means regular people shouldn't have to pay through higher electricity bills for the massive energy that tech companies' data centers use. It's saying, you didn't create this situation, so why should you pay for it? In real-life usage, you might say, let's all go to dinner, and I'll pick up the tab this time, meaning you'll pay for everyone. Or, when the project went over budget, taxpayers had to pick up the tab, meaning taxpayers had to pay the extra cost. Use this at restaurants with friends, when discussing who pays for shared expenses, or when talking about unfair cost distribution in business or politics. Ready for the next one? Our fourth expression is hoover up. We used this vivid expression. These data centers hoover up vast amounts of electricity. Here's what you need to know. Let's explore replenishment. This appeared in the water section. Smith said the company will pay for water replenishment when its data centers must draw on local water supplies. The definition is, replenishment means the act of refilling, restoring, or replacing something that has been used up or reduced. The verb form is replenish. Think of filling up your water bottle again, that's replenishment. Microsoft's data centers use local water for cooling their computers. Water replenishment means Microsoft will put back the same amount of water they used, either by fixing leaks so less water is wasted or by investing in water infrastructure. In practical usage, you might say, I need to go grocery shopping for pantry replenishment, we're out of almost everything. Or, after a hard workout, you need to focus on fluid replenishment, meaning drink water to replace what you lost. You'll hear this in business when talking about restocking inventory, in health discussions about replacing nutrients or fluids, in environmental topics about restoring resources, or in home management about refilling supplies. Think about something in your home or office that needs regular replenishment. Maybe it's coffee supplies, printer paper, or hand soap. Create a sentence using replenishment or replenish about this item. one more important expression. Our final teaching point is cover the costs. Microsoft said they'll cover the costs of updating and adding necessary electricity to the grid. Here's the simple English meaning. Cover the costs means to pay for something, to take responsibility for expenses. We often use cover instead of just pay when we want to emphasize that someone is taking care of all the expenses, including hidden or extra costs. In our story context, Microsoft isn't just paying for the electricity they use directly. They're also paying for, or covering, all the additional costs of upgrading the power grid, new equipment, installation, maintenance, everything. You can use this in everyday situations like, my insurance will cover the costs of this medical treatment. Or, the company covers the costs of employee training programs. Or even, can your budget cover the costs of a vacation this year? You'll use this when talking about insurance, benefits, budgets, sponsorships, or any situation where someone pays for expenses. Think about this. What costs in your life are covered by someone else, like an employer, family, insurance, or government? And what costs do you have to cover yourself? Try making 2 sentences using this pattern based on your real situation. And that's all our main teaching points for today. Wow, we covered so much practical English today. Let's quickly recap what we learned together. Today, we mastered 6 super useful A2-B2 English expressions. The phrasal verb hike up for talking about sudden price increases, backlash for describing strong public reactions, the idiom pick up the tab for paying bills, hoover up for consuming things quickly, replenishment for refilling resources, and the expression cover the costs for taking responsibility for expenses. Every single one of these came from a real, important news story about how technology companies are learning to be better neighbors in their communities. And the best part? You can use all of these expressions starting today, whether you're at work, with friends, or discussing money and fairness. Now here's what I'd love you to do. If today's lesson helped you learn something new about English, leave a heart in the comments below. Or even better, write 1 sentence using your favorite expression from today. It can be about electricity bills, your daily life, or anything you choose. Share this video with one friend who's also learning English. They'll thank you for these practical expressions. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Lady Show English so you never miss our next real-world English lesson. Here's a hint for next time. We'll explore another surprising tech story that affects your daily life in ways you've never imagined. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for learning with me today. See you in the next lesson.